doing quite a bit on that house on Main Street.
I was thinking.
You're going pretty good on that house on Main.
Oh yeah, that's gonna turn around quick once they
I
get
was thinking that one right there.
once they get the paint up and trim and stuff. It's really gonna look good on the outside. They're doing plumbing and heat and electrical right now inside. These guys working.
Either way. Game on.
I'd like to bring this council meeting to for September 6, 2016 to order. Please join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Twyla.
Counselor Albert,
Here.
Counselor Colby. Here. Counselor Ward.
Here.
Counselor McTevier.
Here.
Counselor Bickford.
Here.
Counselor Crafts.
He's been excused.
Counselor Brunel.
Here.
Next item.
Good news and recognition.
I got something. The mill's down, and it looks good.
Nothing, sir.
Oh, okay. Nothing? Next item, Twyla.
Executive session, order 2016-199 to go into executive session per 1 MRSA, section 405, 6A, personnel matter.
Need a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Eric got it.
Order passed, 6-0.
Fine job, sir.
I'll be the doorman today. Thank you, sir. Chris,
All set?
Yes, we are.
I'd like to bring council back into session at 7:11. And I need a motion.
I got a motion here. We go on to the next item? I'd like to confirm the appointment of Lydia Colston as our new finance director. The finance director's gross salary will be $69,000, commencing on September 26, 2016. The finance director shall be covered by the town's health, dental, vision, life insurance, and income protection beginning the month of October 26, 2016.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Do you have to have a roll call on this, child, or is it?
No? Just regular
All in
vote if
favor?
you'd like. Order passed, 6-0.
Next item, Twyla.
Is public hearings, the CDBG Downtown Revitalization Grant.
Good evening, Tracy Stuber, Economic and Community Development Director. We've been going through this for the past couple of years now, actually since 2014, and working with the 196 Master Plan and trying to get a CDBG grant for the town of Lisbon. You received a copy of that grant. This is going to be a public hearing. It's an opportunity for folks to ask questions, give a little bit of history about the grant. Is back in 2015, we did apply for the grant, a competitive grant, and we got second place. Although we scored quite well, someone else had a little bit more money to throw in the pot. The intent was to reapply for the grant for the spring of 2016. However, when the program came out through the Department of Economic and Community Development, there wasn't going to be no funding for the downtown revitalization grant. They had shifted funds at the state level, which left it basically that we wouldn't be able to apply. We didn't know what was going to happen, if they were going to put money back into it. So we had the opportunity to apply for a micro enterprise facade grant for $150,000, in which we did. At the same time, we put in for our downtown revitalization grant with the hopes of being able to get a larger pot for the community and to be able to do more work. Recently, we were invited to come back because money was put back into it at the state level, and the Community Development Office was able to put out a grant. 4 communities were asked. They did the letter of intent, so 4 communities was asked to compete for this grant, and that's what I'm asking now, is for us to continue on what we've started 2 years ago and get this grant. We'd be looking at an amount of $320,000 at the state level, and then our match would be $80,000. It would go, we had previously put aside the $50,000 as a match for this grant. We'd also work in conjunction with what's being done on Davis Street if it all falls in and ties in together to be able to make up that difference. There are folks here as well on the 196 committee that can actually speak to this. So again, we'll open up the public hearing and take comments and ask questions.
I'm going to open up the public hearing for the CBG grant. Anybody?
You got A and B, are those both topics, both under that same grant?
Just
No. No. No.
Dorothy Fitzgerald, Lisbon Falls. $400,000 is a lot of money. $80,000 of my taxpayer money. What do you plan on doing with that money?
Basically, we'd be taking the application, and you all received a packet of it. It was also online included with the packet. And there is, we'd be doing streetscape. So it's also working with Nate Miller and putting some green space in his area. It's doing sidewalks, it's doing some signs, it's doing some lights, all in the downtown Falls area. This goes in conjunction, again, with connecting the trail down Davis Street to the businesses in the downtown, having safe passage across 196, and that is including crosswalks, ADA compliance with the tip downs. It will also go in conjunction with what's to take place within the next 2 years at the intersection of 125 and Route 196 with the project with DOT, and that's also including the intersection and going up and doing a full reconstruction of Main Street with sidewalks and road.
Will any money be earmarked for Lisbon Village? Lisbon Village, I'm sorry to say, is the armpit of the town of Lisbon. It is not a asset to the town. Any earmarked for Lisbon Village? Trying to sell, I don't know what's happening with the farmer Graziano's lot, but if I were a businessman wanting to start up a business, I would not look to Lisbon Village.
When you look at Lisbon, you look at Lisbon as a whole, not one community, not one side to the other. This is why we also have in the works of the downtown TIF district. Within the downtown TIF district, and I hope to hear within the next month from DECD in regards to our final approval of that district. And within there, we're able to target these areas that need work. We have the $150,000 facade grant. Even though we have the downtown Lisbon Falls areas where it has been designated, it does not mean that the businesses or folks that are looking to relocate and need help with facade up at this end of town in the Lisbon area won't qualify. We just have to go through that spot designation for that building to make sure that they comply within the low to moderate income to be able to fit that. Diane and I have been talking, and we're working on also within the lights and doing something about the area with the light poles and adding some paint and just freshening up the area. We're in constant contact with folks and doing things within that area. So again, as we look at the area, it's not one more than the other. The opportunity came for the downtown revitalization one is because all the other projects that was going on into that area. So it puts us in scoring when you're competing against so many other communities. It gives us better leverage within our scoring because there's so many other projects going on. And again, it's going to put us in a much better leverage this time because of the project with DOT, and we are able to put that down on paper that this is going to happen within the next couple of years. Again, we've been very fortunate to be able to apply for 2 grants in 1 year, and we will not have this opportunity.
Anybody else? Vern?
Vern La Rochelle, Lisbon Falls. And Tracy's actually really good at giving you the logistics of someone from her department. I mean, as a person from town, a business owner, and a person that actually works on some of these committees, you know, a few years back, we actually had some business people from outside the community actually take a trip through town, and actually we had a meeting one night, and they actually gave us their honest opinion, what they thought of Lisbon and why Lisbon Falls wasn't actually expanding and growing. And they said, you really need to take a trip to 196 and look for yourself. And if you do look at it in a different manner, if you come through town and see the old mills and buildings run down, everything for sale, you don't see a whole lot of reason to stop or actually to expand and make new businesses. This whole opportunity we have to actually take a little bit of our money, make it to a big pot of money to actually do some stuff to make downtown look better. And actually the goal is to, when people drive through town, they haven't been here before, to say, this looks like a place I might want to stop. And that's the whole goal. And if you get people stopping and you get businesses maybe expanding, I mean, there's a lot of good things happening in this town if you look around. I agree with Roger, the mill being down, coming down Main Street and overlooking the river is something that I never thought I'd see. But up in Lisbon with Kelly Park and that expanding the way it is with some new businesses up that way, things are happening. You just got to keep happening. If you don't do it, it never will, right? So this grant is a great opportunity for us to take a little bit of our money and leverage it to big money and actually make a project that's not going to fix the whole town, but a little bit at a time, right? Thank you.
Roger Cody, Lisbon Falls. When I was on the council and before that, every time there's a revitalization or every time there's money to be spent, they do it in Lisbon Falls. I've seen it over and over and over. Light posts, sidewalks, Lisbon Falls. And if you go through Lisbon, there's a large amount of your taxpayers are in Lisbon Village side of town. It's not just Lisbon Falls. And I know there's only so much money that can be spent, but that's a big part of the town. That the tearing down of the mill, that was a big vitalization right there. To me, that was the best thing could happen to Lisbon in the last 50 years. But we've got to spend something up in Lisbon pretty soon because the people of Lisbon are getting pretty discouraged about the whole organization of the town always going to Lisbon Falls. You know, if you take the wings of an eagle and you cut one off, that bird's not going anywhere. And Lisbon's in the same place. You've got at one end of town that looks like the Bronx and the other end of town that's not too bad, and we spend a little money for revitalization and we go right back to the good end of town. The people in Lisbon are going to start to turn, and they're not going to, you know, they're certainly not going to help the situation. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Good evening. My name is Ruth Saucer, and I live in no man's land, Lisbon Center. We got nothing, right? Do we qualify for these structured loans or grants through, you said, what's the qualification? Yes. Low income, and what was the other word you used?
Light. Designated light.
We got it in Lisbon. It's really a sad shape of affairs. You pull through that town, you don't even know it's there. Lisbon Falls, you have a little bit of a feeling that it's there. You see Fern's Auto Body Shop and you see things happening, a little bit of something going down 196, but you pull through Lisbon and you're through it, that's it. You're on the Thompson. It's too bad, so sad. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Tracy, back to the question, you said that the Lisbon side of this would be actually be able to be considered for this grant as well?
No, for the downtown grant, and this is, it's two separate things. Within the downtown grant, it has to be in the area which we had designated, then that was part of the grant, and that was part of the downtown plan, and again, it was part of all those projects. The facade grant
Is the other piece that they
is
would
the other
qualify.
piece. So the facade grant is basically a town-wide grant.
Okay.
Even though we have the area, when you're talking with community development block grant funds, it's federal dollars, and it is based on low to moderate income or blight designation. And we're not saying that the other area is not in need of it, but within the development and things that are happening at the other area, in the Lisbon Falls areas, that's where we can kind of concentrate and get the most for the money, and do the best work that we can and down into that area. If a business in the Lisbon area, and for instance, if somebody was looking to purchase the former library that has been a cafe or any of those, and if they're struggling, they says, well, I don't have money to put into that, we could look at as far as on where they fall within their income level, but also do, depending on the building and the shape of that, get into like a blight designation for that. They would qualify to be able to apply for the facade grant,
Okay.
to be able to help them out. Also within that, we also have the revolving loan program, which they can even leverage more money.
That was kind of the point that I was actually trying to get to in that regard. One of the key things that I liked that what you actually express is we are a community that has two downtowns, and we're not committed to just one side of it.
That's
that there are
correct.
resources for both sides of town here.
That's
That's
correct.
the piece that I wanted. Thank you for bringing that through.
While I got you there, don't run away. So I think the thing to kind of talk about, some of the things that were brought up this evening in this public hearing, it's very easy to look at the happenings in Lisbon Falls and be very discouraged if you're a resident of Lisbon.
Absolutely.
So my question to you would be, how do we grade, rate, and prioritize these opportunities when they come to Lisbon, so that the folks in the Lisbon community, in Lisbon Village area, can understand that help is on the way, and we're doing the best that we can to try to grade, rate, and prioritize what and how we can spread these monies around to get the most bang for our buck.
Absolutely, and that's a good question. When we look at the community as a whole, and the biggest focus has been the 196 corridor. This was before I came here to Lisbon. There was a committee that was looked at that area, is because, again, we have over 16,000 vehicles that travel this road daily. And the first thing I heard when I came here is, what is here? What can you get us here that they'll stop? And just as Fern said, there were folks, there was developers. I meet with developers all the time, and we look at the areas. And again, it's going to be the infrastructure. It's going to be that visual. It's going to be what do they see when they come into the community. We've got some good projects that have happened on this end, and the village area is in need. And you look at that, and it's a beautiful little village area, and it's got a lot of potentials. You take Farwell Mills, you have housing on the upper level, and you have retail on the lower level. There's definitely some good opportunities. With the Graciano site, and I know that's been a thorn in folks' side as far as on what they're going to do with that. And if I could wave a magic wand and get them to build it, believe me, I would. I've reached out many times and talked to them, or talked to the folks as, what the plans are and what you want to do. I've had many conversations. Dennis and I all the time have conversations in regards to things. Within the downtown TIF district, and this is how I was able to put the downtown TIF, is because, again, most communities do not have two downtowns. But I was able to say, look, this community does. Lisbon is one as a whole, but you look at, and there are two downtown areas. There's even two post offices with zip codes. And with the Department of Economic and Community Development, they accepted that, saying, yes, Lisbon is unique in its way. So with anything that's happening, and within the downtown TIF district, we're able to put those funds back into that area. And that is the goal. But it's really the Route 196 committee, and they're working on kind of becoming a different type of committee, and they're going to be working with council on that development. But that's really what the task is going to be, where I will be working with this committee hand in hand, and we will be looking at the priorities and looking at Lisbon as a whole and what areas do we need to work at. One of the biggest things is your gateways. you have 2 gateways, and those are critical as far as when people coming into the area. There's a lot of things happening at the base, you know, with development and with job opportunities. Another new company coming into Lewiston. When folks come in and they're looking for jobs, they don't always want to live in the city with the hustle and bustle. They want the quiet, the quaint, and this Lisbon has to offer those folks. So again, we want to make it attractive.
Well, and sticking on that theme, let me ask you specifically about the Grazzi's Plaza. I know that I heard, is it, you said Dennis, you and Dennis talk about that. Is it a codes thing that's slowing them down, or is it something else?
It's not a codes thing. It's not a parking thing. Right now, what you're seeing a lot of folks is that they're not building. Sometimes it's the economic feasibility of constructing new than what it is to having a building that's already structured there.
Because they came in like gangbusters and took that thing down without a blink of an eye, which led me to
Exactly.
believe that
Yeah.
they were on fire with an understanding that they could move forward. And was
Correct.
there something that slowed them down or prevented them from moving
I
forward?
think it was more, it's multiple, you know, it's not just one person, it's multiple family members that have this project, and, you know, I think it's just the timing and busy. I can't answer for them. I
Sure,
don't
no,
think,
I'm
you
just trying
know,
to see if you ever got any
no,
indication with the communications
and
that you've had.
Dennis cannot, other than all we can do is, you know, Dennis does his job as far as he reaches out saying, look, the lawns, you know, you need to come and mow it. And, you know, we don't have that hammer that we can go in and tell somebody, you got X amount of days, you got to do something with this. You know, all we can do is try to encourage by saying, what can we do for you? What do you need from us? And again, with the downtown areas for approval, if you get a downtown TIF area, if somebody wants to come in and put in a good chunk of change, then they're going to benefit from that, as well as the town.
Thank you.
So the CDBG Downtown Revitalization Grant, the reason why we qualified was because of everything that's going on down in Lisbon Falls?
Pretty much. When you have to have a project, and you have to have a very good sustainable project. And when they look at that, it says, okay, what's coming into the area? If you're looking at jobs, you know, those are all factors within that. We were up against, I think the community that won the last award was Wilton. They had a developer that was putting up $1 million. Guess what? Here you go. You're going to get the grant because you've got that. So it's that type of partnership. So because of our partnership within working with DOT and again within the trail system, making that connection, and that puts us in a good stand-in as far as we should score very well. Okay. Again, I'm not sure of the other communities that we're up against, but
You referenced 4. Do you know who the other 3 are?
I do not.
You do not.
No, I do not know who the other communities are. But if they, you know, one of the things that I've learned is that within some of the grants is they like to be able to spread those funds around so that every community has the opportunity for those dollars. You know, some communities continue to apply each time, but we were on the forefront, if you will, is because we didn't take no for an answer in regards saying, well, we're not going to put any money into this grant, so this program is going to have $0, and that's what it was budgeted as. But we said, we're going to apply anyways, because if the funds do happen to go back into it, then, you know, we're going to be at the top of the list. And that's exactly, we positioned ourselves very well to be able to do that. We also positioned ourselves well because we were already working on this project for 2 years, is that we're taking the same project. There'll be some modifications to it, but we're taking that same project. We're also will be working in coordination with DOT and making sure that what happens within Main Street all fits and ties in, so it doesn't look like a hodgepodge type of thing, you know, a mix match. And then that's very important to the committee as well. Like I said, the committee has been tasked, they have the master plan, and if you read through the master plan, they have addressed so many issues and things that want to do, but again, without the funding and the sources, you've got to kind of pick away at it and be able to tackle it like that. You know, we're not a community that has big budget funds to be able to put that in. And so you're hoping that you can kind of partner with other things and then just maximize the funding to the best that you can.
How often do you come across grants such as this that we could use in Lisbon Center?
The grants for the Community Development Block Grant, every year.
Okay.
Okay. So if we look at, depending on the program, and a new program doesn't come out until the fall on what the next year's program. In fact, I have a conference call meeting this week, so hopefully we'll learn what their plans are for the next year. But again, it's all going to depend at the governor's office and what types of programs that they want to see funding, because X amount of dollars comes from the federal level down to them, to the community development office, and then they make the determination. They put in for their budget of funds, and that's how it all goes. Some of the larger communities, they're what you call entitlement communities. That's why they're service center communities. Auburn is one, Lewiston is one, where they get a big bulk of money, and they're able to do a lot of community projects. The hard part for Lisbon in getting some of those funds is that when you try to meet the low to moderate income, Lisbon does not qualify because they just don't meet those. So you have to try to be creative and look at the other ways, and that is ways that we look at some of the buildings and what's happening to some of those buildings, and that's how we have to approach that. So we have to do it by, blight designation and go after it that way. But if you try to do a whole community, you have to survey everybody. And when the reports and the census come out, Lisbon is over that line. So we couldn't do like a town-wide type of project.
We've reached a critical state, I think, in Lisbon. I think we all are aware of that just when you drive through it. It's pretty.
Absolutely.
I think all it will take, though, is just one business that can invest, especially on that. It's a pretty valuable corner, even in its current state of disrepair. I think that one business that comes in with a vision can be the linchpin that kicks off a nice revitalization on this end of Lisbon. But it's going to take that first business that wants to put their big toe in the water. And we have to figure out a way to try to be, and I'm not saying that you haven't, and so don't take that the wrong way. We have to find a way to reach out that doesn't require us to use the hammer, to use your phrase from earlier, and more of a handout. And know that, I'm sure you and Dennis have made that handout, but we have to find a different way with a handout to reach up and not a handout to say, here's what we're going to give you to come here. And I think there's a big difference. That's the sticking point. It's hard because people who are coming in with a business are going to want to look at that and say, what are you going to do for me to move into this area? Because it's a pretty rough spot.
Well, you hit it right on. The other thing that you look at is you can look at the area. I go by there every day, and I'm looking at the poles. And again, it's like, okay, let's make some investment in paint the lights, the poles on the lights. Let's look at our bus station. That's not through Western Main Transportation. That's owned by the town. So we as a town, what do we want that to look like? That looks in pretty much, disrepair. If you look at some of the area and the cosmetics of things, that can help.
I'm just going to throw it out there for the sake of throwing it out there. Some of the surrounding neighbor, I think there's one business there on the corner in the old post office that I know there's revitalization, and that's a 196. Would they qualify for anything for rehabbing on that building if they chose to do so because they are on the corridor?
I'm sorry, which?
The Redemption Center, I believe it is.
The Redemption
the old
Center?
post office.
If what they would qualify for, well, one is as far as if we were looking at going after different type of funding, they could definitely, we'd have to look at the building itself and then look at their income level. And if their income level met that, then they could go after their own micro enterprise grant.
Yep. I know that was something we talked about on the other end of town. It's all on that same 196 corridor, so that would be just one area.
Well, when you think of the 196 corridor and the way the master plan it reaches, it's basically those even that sits back that's visible of the 196 corridor. So it's not just those buildings that along the 196, but it's those that are visible from 196. So you're able to kind of get back in those areas. It's the same thing in working, with the planning board and with some of the zoning and that to kind of make that a little bit more flexible and changing some of it to village type areas, because you get a little bit more flexibility with that.
Sure, those modifications that Kelly Enterprises made when they cleaned those 2 lots, and then right adjacent to that, there's been some repainting, and they redid a couple of those houses, and
Absolutely,
they look
yes.
fantastic. So we're starting to see some improvements there, which could be a really nice, a nice foundation to start building on. But when you get past that and you get into that stoplight, unfortunately, that light, you got to stop there, and you get to take it all in, good, bad, and the ugly there.
And,
So,
and that's, that's where you kind of get into as far as, people getting together and rallying behind that and saying, what do we want to see for our community? And let's make it happen.
well, let's make it happen is nice in theory, but I mean, what are we going to do to get a business on that corner so that others will follow suit?
Absolutely.
So that's where we're at.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Dot.
We have time for another comment. Lisbon Village, those sidewalks, those brick sidewalks are a disgrace. They put them in, they were beautiful when they were installed, and the bricks are crumbling, there are weeds growing up between them. On both sides of the street and along the Route 196 corridor. I've been complaining about the tall grass and the weeds on our roadsides. You go through after the town of Lisbon town line into Lewiston, and the roadsides are cleared, and you don't see the tall weeds. Right across from the town office, the weeds are probably up to my waist. This does not show pride in a community. And Topsom is the same way. You go through after the Topsom town line, and the roadsides are cleared. I don't know if it's a state that does it or if it's a town and the city. Ryan's here, maybe he can answer that. We had $50,000 from the previous grant that we did not get, and that money is going into the sidewalk on Davis Street. Maybe that $50,000 could have been better spent on repairing the brick sidewalk in Lisbon Village to attract somebody to the Graziano lot. My comment.
Thank you, Dot. Anybody else?
Mike Hebert, 106 Frostville Ave. You talked about the linchpin business that we need to get into the community on the corner there to spur investment. The linchpin was Fern building a brand-new portion of his business on the corner.
Right.
And that's the staple of the community that we need to continue to see, is that the community is willing to invest within the community. If we as taxpayers and council members aren't willing to secure the funds to invest in our own infrastructure, to update the community, nobody else is going to invest here. Nobody else is going to bring money from outside in if we're not willing to spend our own treasure to keep up our own infrastructure. Painting the light poles is nice, and doing a sidewalk is nice, but the sad fact of the matter is you can wave money in front of somebody all day long. If they don't have money to put in their own business or to put in their own structure, they're not going to do it. So I mean, one question I have is when we take out these grants, the facade grant for the businesses, we're trying to target a very small community of businesses because it's going to make the town look better. How many of the businesses that we're trying to target that aren't selling their business with the hinge of, well, there's a matching grant attached to it, how many people have actually taken advantage of those grants, and are there penalties attached to those grants if we don't utilize the funding?
We're still working on the process for the application. Basically, those folks that have stepped forward, they have to front the money up. It's going to be a one-to-one match, and they have to put up the money before they get anything back. They have to meet all the criteria, all the zoning, all the permits that goes along with that. Those grants are available for anybody who wants to apply, whether they're in that area or if their building is in disrepair and they can be a target area. There aren't penalties as far as for us paying back this grant. And there are no matching dollars. This is on the facade grant. There is no matching dollars for that. So it's $150,000. DCD is going to work with us, and our goal as a committee is to see as much of the funds go out to help those businesses. If someone comes in and purchases a building that is in disrepair, they're only going to get X amount of dollars anyways. The max of that is going to be $20,000, and then they would have to put in $20,000. But they have to put in $40,000 right from the start. That answer the question?
What happens if nobody comes up because they don't have the money? Then what do we do?
The businesses that I met with prior to going after the grant were already committed into doing that. And that was one of the things that we wanted before we even applied for the grant, is what businesses, these are folks that really want to see something. Again, like you said, Counselor, it's once somebody starts doing something, somebody else wants to do something.
Right.
And again, it's going to be a business knowing that they've got to upfront the money, whether they do it through via a loan but they have to put in 100% from the beginning, and then we'll get reimbursed back. Questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I'm going to close this public hearing and open the next one. Vote on
Is the-
bond issue, road bond issue, and charter amendments.
Ryan, to start with the loader and the
Yep.
bond and the paving.
Yep.
As you're aware, looking to replace the front end loader. The new loader would go to Public Works. The old loader would get recycled up to the transfer station. One at the transfer station is need to repair. A new loader is $150,000, which requires us to go out to referendum vote authorization by the citizens to spend that amount of money. And the road bond projects are Bodenham Road, Gould Road, and Summer Street. All combined, that was approximately $1.5 million worth of work that we were looking to bond at this point.
The impact to the tax rate, I can only estimate at this point, a rough estimate based on the current budget and the current revenues and the current values. I don't know what's going to happen next year, but just say we borrowed the money this year for this current budget year, you would be looking at an impact of about 30 cents on your mill rate to do all that work.
Roger?
You know, in Lisbon, name is Roger Cody, I live in Lisbon Falls. Over the past few years, we've been pretty, I feel, generous in trying to take care of our fire department, take care of our police department. They have pretty nice equipment to work with. If we have a storm, or ice storm, or a big mess to take care of, we're gonna rattle Public Works. Help us out. We need you. Help us out. They do an excellent job with the transfer station and stuff. I just hope that we can give them a good loader. It's very important to these people. They try hard to do a good job for us. And if you go down to Public Works and look around, they need a good loader. The loader looks pretty sad.
They're running junk right now.
I hope, yeah,
know,
they
but
need
yeah.
equipment. They really do. And I think that we've just got to buckle down and find a way to get them a good loader. I know that we're gonna run after them in the heartbeat when the snow's deep and we need it moved off somewhere, or if some catastrophe happened and we need a bunch of stuff hauled off. Public Works is gonna be the one that we're gonna request this to be done by. We gotta give them something to work with. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Following on that sentiment, $1.5 million on the budget for the bonds for the roads. I asked a different statistic of Diane to give us some information here. There's 26 houses on Gould Road that would be impacted to the better associated with actually getting that road paved. There's 195 on Summer Street, including 82 of which are in the Colonial Gardens, and 76 on Bodenham Road. And one of the things that keep piece to this is it is not just paving. These roads are reconstructions that need to actually happen. The fact is, this needs to happen because it is investing in our infrastructure. If we let the infrastructure go, we are going to get to the point where the fact is it is going to cost you more money. This is a perfect example of that happening right now.
Yeah. Couldn't say it any better. The Bodenham Road, just drive down it. Go take a ride down Bodenham Road. And I think you'll come back and say, yeah, this is a steal to get this done. Same thing with Summer Street. Bodenham Road's a well-traveled road, has been for a long time, even though it's on the other end of town, closer to Sabatis. So I think it's a no-brainer to do these roads, especially at 30 cents on the mill rate. Nobody wants to see their mill rate go up at all, but at the same time, if 30 cents across the board for all of us to share that, to be able to allow for some of the main arteries in this community to be reconstructed, and hopefully by doing this now, they'll hold out for a lot longer. We got to invest in the infrastructure, to borrow from Mr. Hebert's earlier comment, if we want to keep this place afloat. So,
Absolutely. Anybody else?
I have a question for Ryan. Sorry, putting you on the hot seat. If we were not to pass, if the voters do not pass the bond for the loader, how much life is left in that loader that we presently are using?
Less than 0.
Okay.
okay.
So what would happen if we don't pass it and it does officially die and it cannot be revived any longer? Then what are we going to do?
At this point, the next option for us would be to try to look for something used that was within the authority that we have to purchase, and we start over from that standpoint.
Is this loader that we're presently using used?
The one that's at the transfer station now was at Public Works, I believe in '99. They just keep getting recycled through because the primary one has a plow route as part of Public Works, so the new loader would go to Public Works, be used in the plow routes and whatever else, and then the secondary one is used up at the transfer station for their needs during their operation. Is also used during the winter to load trucks, or is pressed into service to plow if necessary. Right now, the current loader doesn't operate other than first gear and uses oil and yada, yada, yada.
So at this point, the new loader would be pressed into service immediately to handle functions that are barely being covered by the existing loaders, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Would you like me to move on to the charter amendments?
Yep.
2 of the charter amendments were on last year for referendum, and they are major appropriations of $100,000 or more. We're proposing to change that for the school and for the town side to increase from $100,000 to $250,000 the cost per unit to purchase equipment or services. One of the main reasons that I wanted it back on the agenda for the council for this year and for the taxpayers to vote on is in the upcoming years, in a couple of years, we're going to have some major road improvements taking place here in Lisbon on 2 roads, Ryan, mainly Main Street and mostly Main Street. And our portion of that is going to exceed the $100,000 for just one of the projects. And to even start to go down that road, to have DOT do the projects, we have to sign a 3-party agreement, and we have to pay our share of the right-of-way and the engineering, which all has to be done before the road work has to be done. Should we do that and sign the agreement and then go to referendum and it gets defeated, then the town is on the hook for 100% of the right-of-way and engineering, which could exceed what our share of having that road work done. So it's really important that we increase this limit, especially for the road work that's going to be coming down the road. That's the main reason why I put it back out there. It's not because, well, yes, it got defeated last year, but there's a reason why it really needs to get passed this year because of that work. They're going to do a full reconstruction on Main Street, and we need to take advantage of that. But it's going to be costly to us, too.
Let's talk about that a little bit more, just so we can kind of clarify, too. That work that's going to be done, it's obvious the road's going to get done. They're going to do a great job DOT's going to do a great job putting that together. But we're also getting some added benefit there, too. My understanding is that they're going to go ahead and run gas line as well for us, and there's going to be, all we have to do is dig the trench, or is that what it was? I can't remember.
We have to work that out with Unitil, but that'll be a cost to us. That's not going to be free.
It's not going to be free.
No, but it's going to be our chance to, at that time, it'll be cheaper for us to do it at that time.
Right.
When the road's already going to be open.
So cheaper energy coming into Lisbon for the residents and the businesses to use There's lowering costs for them, lowering operating expense, wants to keep them here. Maybe entices other folks too.
And also, if they're gonna be digging up that road, which they will be a time when we might wanna do some sewer work, and the water department might wanna do some water. If it's gonna be torn up, everybody's gonna save to get projects done, and that's the time to do it, because there'll be a moratorium on it afterwards.
But if we don't kick this off, then if we don't pass this bond, pardon me, not bond, but the charter amendment to allow the increase from $100,000 to $250,000, then there's no way for us, we could be on the hook for the whole project
Right.
if it was to
We
go
have-
out and
There'll
fail.
be a risk
Yeah.
of us moving forward with signing that three-party agreement.
And how much is that risk?
A lot.
Do you have any idea, Ryan? What
Ballpark,
the
we
estimate
won't hold
was
you
for
to
the,
Quite a bit more.
yeah.
No.
Roger?
One thing we want to remember that when the charter was written, the $10 bill was worth something,
Exactly.
and it isn't anymore. And that it's too bad to restrict ourselves, but we also don't want ourselves to go. The reason they were put in there, they're limited to 100,000, was to curtail unnecessary spending also. So if you give yourselves or if they put through that you can have a $250,000 limit, there's a lot of folks out there that are gonna say they just wanna spend crazy. You know, this should also come with a good explanation to people to understand that we used to buy a new pickup truck for, $3,400, and now we're spending $40,000. That's the difference.
Well, I'm sure you can agree that when the charter was written, 100,000 is equivalent to the 200
And I do.
now.
And I understand that, but there's a lot
It's
of
an
people that are
education
gonna
piece.
look at that and they're gonna say, they just wanna spend foolishly too.
Right,
And
right.
I understand that it's just 100,000 today is nothing what it was 20 years ago. So,
Is there any way to clarify that on the ballot? How that's,
No, we're just gonna have to do some education.
Good question.
Yeah.
I was glad it actually came from Roger tonight on the inflationary part rather than our town manager, because these two things that were talked about here, it's investment in infrastructure, both of them in that regard, whether it be the bond initiatives, the charter change, or even if you want to go back to the CDBG for the prior one, it's trying to set things in motion to invest in the infrastructure in our town to better the people that are here.
I mean, I always hear people complain, oh, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're not doing this. But then when we try, it takes money to do it. And when we try to do it, then we get told, oh, you're doing this, you're spending this. But you have to invest in yourselves and not expect others to invest in us to bring our infrastructure to where we should be.
And the
We,
thir-
yeah.
No, go ahead. If you s- I was
We,
gonna
we
go-
cannot do these things. We can certainly choose not to as a community. You can say, no, I want to spend this money. Where does that leave us? That's the question I keep coming back to. I don't want to spend this money. I don't want to raise my taxes. I don't want to raise your taxes. None of us do. But when I look at what we get for what we're giving, for me, it's a no-brainer. We're going to get way more in return than what we're putting up. Now, to speak to Mr. Cody's point, you're absolutely right. When I saw that 250, when I was sitting on the other side of this last year, I was like, oh, yeah, well, no thanks. But it's a little bit different climate then, too. And there was not a whole lot of education around what the reason was for raising that to 250. And as you dig into it, you realize that there's not a whole lot of people up here that are all interested in spending money on everything under the sun. It's more about how can we take what we have right now that needs the most attention and make it better at the lowest cost to the taxpayers of this community. It's hard because there's a lot of things that need to get addressed right now. So it looks like, we're trying to give it away, and we're really not. We're trying to figure out what's the best way to get it done. So we can choose. It's absolutely a choice every one of us can make. We can say we don't want to do this, but we also have to add up the cost of what that's going to look like at the end.
Again, Mike Hebert, 106 Frost Hill Ave, and I want to put up a challenge to everybody up here. As in my travels last year and this year, I'm making the same case to everybody. And that's my pitch, is investment in the town is what's gonna procure growth. Now, I wanna challenge all you counselors up here, the town manager, I wanna challenge everybody to take the case to the people, because we can talk amongst ourselves in this little room with this small community of people who pay attention to where the money's spent and where the money's going and why we need to be able to allocate more funding for these things. But without making the case to the people where it matters, you're never gonna garner the support. 99.9% of the people in the community do not come here, and they do not pay attention to what happens in here, though they're all affected. So I challenge you to take that out to the community. Walk your districts, walk the town, go door to door, feel people's concerns, feel people's burdens, and let them understand why it's important for us to make the infrastructure investments. Make them understand, whether it comes down to district cooperation, where district councilors go out into their local communities and try and get gatherings together amongst their own districts, whether it's community gatherings, whether it's something that has to happen at the school. The case needs to be made to the people so they understand why it is important for this community to invest in itself. So that's my challenge to you. That's what I'm out doing. So I hope that we can make it a broader spectrum agenda issue that everybody gets involved with. So I think it starts getting down to local roots, small town, door to door, and sell your case. Make it felt and make it understood why we need to do it. That's what I got. Thank you.
Just so you know, Mike, 10 steps ahead of you on that one. Said 10 steps ahead of you on that one.
What about
Anybody
doing a
else?
mailer? Could we do a mailer on something like that, put an information out and just
It's a great idea.
out all the, so that way everybody can get it and they can read each one and see the reason why those things are on the ballot. And
Yeah, we can work on a mailer.
Dorothy Fitzgerald again. Jumping from $100,000 to $250,000 is a huge jump. I'm wondering if it could be modified to $150,000, $175,000, something like that, rather than a huge jump from 150 to 250. I think a lot of people in the voting booth are going to be looking seriously at that and thinking, wow, this is my tax money. I don't think I'm going to go for it.
And again, you know, we raised that 250 because
Right.
the cost of doing business is so much greater now than what it used to be. And again, the road work that's gonna happen on Main Street, it's gonna be a total reconstruction now, so that's gonna be expensive.
Buying a new piece of PW equipment shouldn't be a three-sided transaction that requires to actually purchase the chassis, to actually install the chassis, and then to actually find a third way to be able to come up with the other funding just to put a piece of vehicle on a road. That's the reality.
and on that mailer, all we gotta do is explain everything on that.
Talking with somebody that lives on Main Street, Upper Main Street, redoing Main Street may be more of a challenge than you think. From what I understand, from that person that lives on Main Street, the infrastructure, the sewer system, is sadly in need of upgrading. So I don't know if you're taking that into consideration too with the Main Street reconstruction and redoing.
Yeah, that was just brought up with the Unitil and the water and sewer dock.
Anybody else? I wanna
So,
close this.
no, one more item. The third charter amendment is just to modify the date the planning board has to make recommendations regarding the proposed capital improvement plan. Last year, we had changed those dates, and we failed to change one section in the charter to make it flow
Housekeeping.
correctly. So these dates will follow the May 1st date for submission of the proposed capital program. It's just a housekeeping change.
What's that? Now I'll close these public hearings. Next
Wait,
item-
wait, Roger's got something.
No, I'm ready for the public.
Oh,
Next item, Twala.
Audience participation and response for agenda items.
Come on down.
Roger Cody, Lisbon Falls. I'm gonna try to be as gentle and publicly correct as I can be. Route 9. We voted to leave it alone. We sang Kumbaya and held hands at a meeting, took a vote, leave it alone. Came to another meeting in the town hall here, leave it alone. Let's get back to the $250,000 you want to raise, the limit to be able to spend. The townspeople tell you something, and then you don't listen to them. This is the kind of stuff that we're really starting to get upset about. We've told you enough times now, we do not want Route 9 touched. Leave it alone. We can't be any more gentle. And then, Roger, I'm sorry, but last meeting, when you said you could not vote on an issue because Mr. Matiba was not here, I flipped right over in my chair. That isn't anything to do with the voting. You had personnel that could voted on that very easily, but you probably didn't feel the outcome would be what you wanted. That is not the way you get the public support behind you. That was wrong. Becky Steele at the state would have thrown knives at you had she been in the room. You don't do that. And I don't want to do it to beat up on you, Rod, but that was something that didn't go over good with the people in town. Route 9, we don't want you people to vote to do anything with it. Please leave us alone so we can just continue living up there without worrying about something happened to Route 9. You get people coming out. These people don't want to deal with this anymore. They've had their word. They've told you and told you and told you. They're sick of it. It's almost like when they was trying to pass the gay rights movement and the marrying couples and all that stuff. We heard it and heard it and heard it till we finally said, just do it so you'll shut up. Well, we're getting this way with Route 9. We don't want to hear it no more. We don't want it to change. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I trust that you guys are watching and I won't get shot in the back. Okay.
Put your rain gear
This
on.
is,
No
I'm Brad
promise- no
Fellows,
promises.
and I'm actually talking for the planning board tonight. And just a couple of brief things that I want to go through to remind the council what they are voting on, if they're voting, when you get down towards the end of this evening. The charter. Planning board shall have such powers and perform such duties as are provided by the laws of the state of Maine. This charter or ordinances developed. And among other things, the planning board shall be responsible for evaluating and updating the comprehensive plan. And it shall update it shall review the capital improvement program. And then from the charter came an ordinance, and particularly its section 70. This chapter shall be known as the zoning ordinance for the town of Lisbon, and will be referred to as this chapter. And then further down within that chapter, the ordinance chapter, is the provision for amendment. An initiation for amendment of this chapter, which is what we're talking about, zoning, can be initiated by the planning board, provided a majority of the board has so voted. It can be done by the town officers, a request of the town officers to the planning board, or by petition from the citizens. In this case, that you're looking at, the town officers have formally requested of the planning board to look at it in the past. And if you vote tonight, that's what you would be doing as well. Adoption of the amendment in this chapter may be adopted if recommended by a majority vote of the governing body. So if the planning board works on this, whatever it is, and works on it and comes up with something, passes it, holds a hearing on it, passes it, sends it up to you as recommended, then you pass it by a simple majority. If we study the issue thoroughly, cannot come up with something we agree with, we will come up with something we don't agree with and fail it, pass it to you anyway, recommending that it not be passed. So if you choose beyond that to pass it, then you would need a 2/3 majority to do so. So that's what would happen. And we have to hold a public hearing and that sort of thing. Our conclusions after the public input by survey and 2 public gatherings was that the best fit, if any changes were to be made, could conceivably be made in home occupation subsection. It should be noted that there are restrictions in home occupations that are significant, and if you combine those requirements and the 34 pages of rules for auto dealerships, the limitation can be very daunting. If you vote tonight to give us a charge to do that, I can promise you that the planning board will work honestly for the best fit. That fit may or may not be acceptable to the majority of the board. At this point, we simply do not know. However, if we are unable to draft something we find accessible, we will vote that it not be recommended and pass it along, like I said. We do, however, plan to address the comprehensive plan and make some assessments this year as to what needs amendment. After that, we plan to work slowly over the next 12 to 24 months to amend the comprehensive plan and to make it more relevant for our town. And a final note, and I got this from reading, this is very familiar or very similar to the requirements put before us when we entertain a case. Despite anything else, in such cases, we must not base our decision on the amount of public support for or against the project, nor should our decision be based on the membership's general opinion of that project, whether it would be good or bad for the town. What the decision must be based solely on is whether the project has met the burden of proof and complied with the statute and the ordinances and the comprehensive plan. So that will be the weight upon what goes to the planning board if you vote in one way or another to send it to us. And that's how we'll handle it. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Good evening. My name is Dana Solskjaer, Mill Street, Lisbon, right across from the elementary school. I've got an issue that needs, I've got a couple of them, I'm just going to touch one tonight. We've got some real problems with speed on that road.
You
Okay.
you have to, if you want to talk about anything but right now on what's here, you
Okay.
have to do it under the audience participation.
I thought that's where we were.
No,
I'm sorry,
we're
I
not.
heard
This is
I heard
for
that
agenda
earlier.
items only.
I'm sorry.
No worries, Dana.
Larry Fillmore from Lisbon. I just listened to Mr. Fellows. I listened to him the last time he addressed the council. Okay, and the key note here is that whatever they decide to do, or you decide to do, legal or illegal, must be in compliance with the comprehensive plan. Hello? Comprehensive plan. We've already altered some of our ordinances that didn't meet the comprehensive plan. So it's nothing new. You guys do it all the time. But if you have a review of the comprehensive plan scheduled, and it's coming up shortly, why don't we table this issue and handle it with the comprehensive plan? Because everything starts and ends with the comprehensive plan. Okay, now it's a short period of time. Okay, the majority of Route 9 has voted or expressed their opinion, however you want to say that, at least 5 times in the last few years. And each and every time, the majority of the people stated, leave it alone. However, we have one family versus, I don't know how many people are on Route 9, but there's a bunch of them, okay, that would like to put a used car lot or sell cars, whatever you want to say, that is right now against the zoning against the comprehensive plan, okay, against home occupation, even though they've used that for a catch-all to illegally do a lot of things. But now we have a review of the comprehensive plan coming up. Okay? We need to start there. And one family does not outweigh the majority, only in Lisbon. Thank you.
Mark?
I'm Mark Lunt, former council, and they say you should hope for the best and plan for the worst. Laws and ordinances, unfortunately, have to be made for the worst, not the best. So when you look at the future of Route 9, I urge you not to assume the best, but to imagine the worst that could happen with whatever you do. Don't think only of the person who asked for a change, but think of what happens if dozens of people change their uses all along Route 9, leaving that road just another rundown embarrassment to our town. Because when people come into our town, those major roads are what they think of us. And they see us as those places, and if those places look good, they'll have a good opinion of Lisbon, and they'll want to move here, or they'll want to do business here. If they don't have a good opinion of it because it's another rundown drag strip, then they'll think, oh, Lisbon, that's not a good place. I don't want to live there. I don't want to open a business there. So I'd encourage you to really think about what is going to look like out there. And not just what you think, oh, you know, this one business could be good. Think of the worst possible situation under whatever changes you make. So please listen to all the voices of the majority of the residents. Thank you.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah.
Mark, I just wanted to say, if you've looked at some of the new businesses that have gone in town, because of the way the planning board has changed things and they put different rules and stipulations on stuff, the businesses that have been coming in to Lisbon are looking very nice. You know, I don't think if you see another business go in, it's going to look like some old rundown used car lot that you might see, because they've taken action to make these businesses look good. So I don't think you're going to see that.
Anybody else? Next item, Paul.
Is the consent agenda. Any counselor wishing to have any item removed may do so now. Items removed from the consent agenda will be considered next. Order 2016-201 to approve the minutes of August 16, 2016. And we also have on the consent agenda the wardens set polling hours, locations, register hours, and absentee casting hours. So it would be to appoint Rick Roberts, warden, set the polling hours from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., set the location at the Lisbon High School Gymnasium, and the register hours for October 31, November 1, 2, 3, 7, and Election Day. To cast absentee ballots on Saturday, November 5, 9 a.m. or immediately following any inspection. On Monday, November the 7th at 9 a.m. or immediately following any inspection. And on Election Day at 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 12 p.m., 2 p.m., 4 p.m., 7, and 8, in accordance with the MRSA, Title 21A, Section 759-7, for the November 8, 2016 state and municipal election.
I think that's the way to do it.
Need a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Need a second?
Yep.
Any discussion? Just house cleaning. All in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Next item, Paul.
Under council orders, resolutions, and ordinances, Order 2016-202, the dump body install.
Step 2.
I'm here tonight seeking permission to award the dump body, currently owned dump body install on the new Freightliner cabin chassis that we recently ordered. We received 3 bids, with Viking Surveys of Maine being the low bidder at $50,225. We had budgeted $60,000 for outfitting the new cabin chassis. We still need to sandblast and paint the underside of the existing body, and be some odds and ends that go with it. But the major work, which is the body install, the new wing mount, new front plow mount, and new plow and wing would all be part of that Viking project. They're the ones that did the last retrofit for us, and that's worked out very well in there, right outside the Lisbon line.
So
It's
10,000
nice.
10,000 under? What we
For that
anticipate?
install, yeah, I mean, the previous install was a little less than 50, and when we had asked, he'd, thrown out budget numbers of around 60, so, no, we were pretty happy with the bids, and that, rather than having to utilize some of our other budget lines for painting and everything, we can take everything right out of that.
So we worked with Viking before, it sounded like, and they're
Yep.
a good outfit. They took care of us well, and they
Yep.
do good work.
Yep, and they're right there, which is.
Couldn't be any closer to
Right.
being supporting a local business.
Right.
Good.
I know they do good work, I've seen it. I need a motion
Yes.
to accept the bid from Viking.
Yes.
Okay, I need a
Second.
second. Okay, all in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Next item, Twala.
Order 2016-203, Houston Street Drainage.
One of the previous meetings came to get permission to go out to bid to replace a storm drain on Houston Street from starting at the catch basin at the intersection of Scottsdale and Houston Street and working towards East Avenue. Estimated around 300 feet originally. I think it's going to be probably closer to 200 once we actually get in there. But we asked for a per foot price because we only want to replace, we know there's a bad section of concrete pipe. We want to replace that piece of concrete pipe, and then where it's good, we'll just connect onto that. We know that their original installation, there was some differences in what they used for materials from one to another. So Longchamps was the low bidder at $85 a linear foot, followed by COP Excavating at 96 and St. Laurent and Son at 98.
My question to you is, Longchamps, when they bid it price.
They
Are
bid
they
it
gonna honor
Longchamps.
85 foot?
Yep, when we opened
I know you
bids-
calculated it based on that. Are they gonna honor if they're gonna honor the 85 per foot, I'm good with that in that regard.
That was the indications when they left the.
Good.
When they left the bid open.
'Cause-
I actually spoke with one of the Longchamps, and yes, that's the.
That would be,
Good.
anything short of 266, the next bid is actually better pricing associated with that, so that was my one concern.
Yep.
Just for that reason, because I know you had to get it on the agenda, you estimated the 300 feet.
Yep.
By all means, if that's the case, then it addresses the concern.
And they are a local business,
Again,
Right.
I don't want to go against, exactly.
right in the neighborhood.
I need a motion
I'll make a motion.
Second.
to accept Longchamps.
Yes.
All in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, Twala.
Order 2016-204, request for qualifications for Brownfields Qualified Environmental Professionals.
Good evening again. Tracy Stuber, Economic and Community Development Director. Lisbon was fortunate to receive a $200,000 Brownfields grant. The grant is for doing Phase 1 and Phase 2 assessments. This is not a cleanup grant. It is just that, a Phase 1 and Phase 2. As part of the Brownfields program, we are required to hire a consultant. This would be a person expert that would be doing all of the work outside. So I'm asking council for permission to solicit bids for qualified environmental professional services, which is QEP, as part of the Brownfields requirement.
I got no issues with this at all.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
I make the motion, but no other discussion.
Second.
All in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Thank you, Tracy.
Next item, Twala.
Order 2016-205, the CDBG Downtown Revitalization Grant Submission.
Tracy?
Way too soon.
Again, as going after the downtown revitalization grant, as we spoke about earlier. The deadline for the grant is September 16th. So I would like permission to be able to submit the grant, and I will drive up to Augusta and hand deliver it.
Need a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
And that earmarks the 80 grand to be able, for our piece, to be able to do that. You need that to be part of this motion, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You already did that.
That is-
And there's a
The
letter,
scope of- right.
that's correct, and there's a letter from the town manager that goes along with that stating that council has put that
I
aside.
just want to make
Signed
sure,
off,
'cause
yeah.
what Norm was on the hook for, making the motion, that's what I quite
Knew what I was going in with, thanks,
Good,
brother, I
good,
appreciate
good. It's
that.
a just
All in
checking this.
favor?
Appreciate that.
Order passed 6-0.
And thank you.
Next item, Twala.
Order 2016-206, authorizing the issuance of up to
I don't want anybody dancing
$150,000 in
on over that
bonds to
edge.
finance a front-end loader.
I need a motion.
I'll make the
Please.
motion.
Any
Second.
discussion?
Nada.
Did you just give him one of the?
All in
Chris
fa-
is doing it. Exactly. It's
All in
contagious.
favor?
Passed 6-0.
Next item, Twala.
Order 2016-207, authorizing the issuance of up to $1.5 million in bonds to finance road projects.
Need a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'm gonna second that motion.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Next item, Twala.
Order 2016-208, the warrant for the November 8, 2016 election.
Need a motion?
Yes, I read this. I'll make that motion. It was just setting everything we need to do for November 8th, by all means.
I need a second.
There's Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
All in
Credit
favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Oh,
We need your
gosh.
signatures on all those.
It's getting late, huh?
We have lots of copies to sign.
Next item,
Order
Twala.
2016-209 to set the interest rate on overpayment and repayment of taxes.
Yes, I'm asking you to set the interest rate on overpayments in the case of an abatement. If someone's made a payment on their taxes and for some reason they are granted an abatement because of an error that the assessor made, we are required by law to pay them interest on the amount that they paid us. So I'm asking you to set that interest rate at 3%. And then the other part of this, if you recall, before year end, I asked you for permission to apply taxes to the new year. This was before we committed taxes. Now that we've committed taxes, some people like to pay ahead on their 2018, and I need to have permission from council to authorize me to accept payments for the 2018 taxes.
And
I'll
by-
make the motion.
And by not doing so, it actually would cost us more money if somebody were to push the issue.
You
Yes.
made the motion?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
6-0, order passed.
Next item.
Order 2016-210, write-off personal property tax, Music LLC.
I'm still working on my personal property tax list. It's getting very small now. This one taxpayer is out of state, and they provide music to like the credit union. You know, when you hear the music in their lobby and so forth, that's what this company does. They do not have any assessment for this year, and they still owed for 2015 and 16 for a total of $7.74. I've been
Somebody sold the
talking
tape
to
deck.
them, but they will not. They've stopped talking to me now, so it's like,
Yeah.
I don't wanna waste any more time for $7.74, so I think
Yeah.
you ought to write it off.
Do I need a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion, yeah. She made it, I'll second it. And let's,
All in,
My due diligence.
all in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Next item, Twala.
Order 2016-211, Section 90-17, Holiday Leave Personnel Policy Amendment.
Yes, we're just trying to bring the Public Works Department and the landfill in line with our other holidays. Right now, there isn't anything written in the policy, so we just have really one employee that affects right now, that they just get the holiday on the books and they can carry it forever and ever. So we're trying to make it so that it's uniform with what the town office does and what the library does. And this is just affecting the non-union employee. So we want to have something in writing so that they get the floating holiday just like everybody else does. But they have to use it before the fiscal year ends, just like we have to. So we just want to amend the policy so that everything's uniform.
I'll make the motion.
Any second?
Sure.
Alan?
All in favor?
Order passed six
I
zero.
wasn't gonna fight you for it.
Next item, Marla.
Order 2016-212, Route 9 zoning.
I'm gonna read a motion. I'm gonna need a second, then discuss, and then we'll get this over with. The motion is, no, that ain't the one. We already did that one. There we go. I move to direct the planning board to develop a revision of Charter 70 zoning of town ordinance. In this revision, home occupation is to be allowed limited antique auto sales in the appropriate zones. The planning board is also to work on updating the comprehensive plan beginning next calendar year. That's my motion. I need a second.
Second.
Okay, now we're gonna discuss.
We discuss, okay.
This is just to send it forward so the planning board can do their, as John said, to do their due diligence. That's, they will come up with solutions, or maybe a solution, maybe they won't. And, it's gonna have to come back to us with a public hearing, and if they don't recommend it, then I'm not gonna vote for it. So, but this is all it is to send it to them so they can do it. And, I have no problems with that, because it doesn't make any difference in what's gonna change if they don't recommend it. And I got a feeling if they do come up with something that it isn't gonna change, you will not see one bit of difference on Route 9 as you do right now.
My question, and this, and I know I'm not the only one, but I heard it tonight too, is it's not the one person that we know probably has good intentions and really we wouldn't say anything about. It's the person who comes in with deep pockets and a bad attitude that can fight the town tooth and nail the whole way down and spend a lot of taxpayers' money in that process having to defend against something like that because they're going to try to dictate to the town what they're going to do with their property because we opened the door. And that's the one thing I keep revolving back to. And I look at, that's the big picture. That's the ugly side of this. If I look at the more kind of short, Don talked about, and a few other folks talked about, there's going to be some work on the comprehensive plan coming up. And I'm just wondering if we even need to have this discussion now, if it's going to be addressed in that comprehensive plan down the line.
We have to have the planning board to start, this is the direction to give the planning board to
Right.
start the comprehensive plan.
But I guess for me, it sounded like it was the opposite. It was the tail wagging a dog, where we're having the discussion about
that's
this
the way
particular zoning to get to the comprehensive plan.
No, we don't.
When we're
no,
going to
it's
get
not
there
gonna be.
anyway.
We're gonna get there anyways.
That's exactly, you're right. 6 one way, half dozen another.
It's
I just want to
just,
make sure.
Basically, how do I say that? I can probably, I don't know, Dennis can probably go to this, but I know he could probably do what he wants to do right now by just registering every antique auto, which is $25 a pop, and putting them out there and selling them. And that's what a lot of people do. They register a car. If you have a car registered, you want to sell it, you know.
Right.
And
I
there's
think you're only allowed to do that so many
No.
times.
If it's an unregistered car, only so many times. Registered, you can sell 1,000 of them. If they're you register them every year. Every registered car, you have an opportunity to sell. So,
You're the expert there. I'm going to let you take
well,
it.
I'm 99.9% sure, but I have been noted to be a lot awful wrong. Right, Eric?
My concern associated with this, the fact is that I'm all for updating the comprehensive plan, but Timon smells like 4-day-old fish, and the fact is that it's after a specific thing associated with that, not the actual reason why we're actually looking at it. And I wouldn't even want to taint that for the individual that's asking for it, because we vetted the situation associated with it. I'm all for helping be able to express, but I don't want to kill a bad idea associated with updating the comprehensive plan. In that regard, it's my understanding, Don can chime in on this too, is we were talking in that regard, is that this, to fully vet that discussion could take upwards of your next session for the planning board? They updated the comprehensive plan, timeframe on that.
Comprehensive plan, what we plan to do is look at assessments, make assessments with the planner to figure out what areas really need to be changed, as well as the demographic information. Once that's done, which could be completed by the end of the calendar year, then we would take 12 to 24 months to figure out exactly how we're going to do the changes to the comprehensive plan. And it could, if the town council so chose, it could include more citizens rather than just the planning board. Some towns do it that way. So that could ask for direction too, but that's not a short-term process, no.
Right.
So timeline would be assessment through the end of this calendar year with the understanding.
Most likely.
Most likely, I'm not going to hold you to it. But the best guess would be shooting for the end of the calendar year, maybe a little bit beyond that. But then after that, whenever it finishes the when the planning board finishes the assessment phase, if you will, then it's like, how do we implement some of these areas that we talked about do need to be addressed?
For example, you might say, okay, to pick a road, Route 9 is not really meeting what currently is going on or what needs to go on or what should go on for the next 30 to 50 years up there.
Right.
So we need to revisit that. That's what we might get in an assessment. It also might get in an assessment that Route 9 needs nothing. It's possible.
I just don't want to play kick the can. I think we've played that game for a long time now, and I think it's fine if this final assessment, well, not final, but this assessment is going to lead us to some yay or nay, and not just on Route 9, but on all areas that we either deem need to be addressed or are okay, let's leave them, let's move forward, we're fine with that. It's not affected by current standings, settings, whatever we're using.
My understanding was the fact is we may come back 2 years from now and they have no changes to the comprehensive plan that were necessary.
Exactly.
Based on what you have for an assessment. There's no change potentially that may come of this at all.
Well, it's possible, yeah.
Right.
I'm sure there will be some. But to the comprehensive plan, I'm sure there's going to be some changes.
Right. Well, again, what I'm trying to clearly communicate here is that this is not a Route 9 issue. This is.
No, it's not.
I don't want somebody to make that assumption associated with that at all.
No, it's a town-wide.
It's a town-wide issue.
Yeah.
Now, is this something that you were already planning on doing?
I'm sorry, what?
The comp plan, is that something that you were already planning on revisiting?
Yes.
Okay, I think we're just beating a dead horse. I keep saying this, and at this point, the people have spoken. I don't know why we keep on addressing this issue, and.
Well, this is gonna be the last time we address it right here.
But we keep bringing it up year after year after year after year. How many times? I mean, I'm just at that point.
It's gonna be the comprehensive plan.
But that's something that they were already going to address, so
They're
why
gonna
are we
address it.
continuing?
Basically, all I'm doing is send it to them to see if they can find a solution.
But this is what they were already planning on doing that, so why do we have to correlate the two together?
It's not. That's the key point that I'm trying to make.
Okay, if you want to break out the auto sales and go with a comprehensive plan and direct them to go ahead, I'll go along with that.
So he's basically changing what is,
Yeah.
he's taking that right out of there and just saying he wants to.
Let the because I really do think in the long run, the comprehensive plan is going to put it in anyways.
Right.
There you go. So let's not talk
You know,
about it. It's
there's-
just a comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
I've heard a bunch of stuff tonight.
Right.
Everyone's talking about we need new business in town. You talk about 196 over and over. New business. We need new business. We need new business. And we've got somebody here that wants to start a business, that wants to bring in something and wants to get something going. And we're saying, no, you can't do it because it's his own property. I can't see where he's hurting anything. He has to follow the guidelines that the planning board puts forward and everything they put in. All the business that's come into town and has started a businesses look good. If you look at his property now, it looks good. I can only imagine that whatever he puts in would look good. I just think it's too bad to shut somebody down that's.
Because they don't live on 196.
Because they don't live on 196. He owns his property, why can't he do what he wants with his property? And why can't we work with him? We worked with the Kellys when they wanted to do stuff down there, why can't we work with him?
He hasn't got the money.
On the flip side of that, though, there's plenty of commercial space for them to be able to do what they want to do. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not opposed to a business coming here, but there's a right place for those
Cassie,
businesses.
You imagine what he would have to spend to have a dealership anywhere on
Okay,
Route 9?
so let's put it out there then. There's tons of stuff I want to do on my property, but I can't. So we're going to have people coming through those doors 24/7 saying, I don't like my zone. I want it changed because I want to do this.
You're right. How long have you lived on your property?
My wife wants chickens.
I've lived here long enough.
How long?
I don't think it's about that.
It doesn't matter if I've lived here for 60 years or not.
happening.
The point of the matter is I'm a
I'm
taxpayer.
willing
I
to
think we're
drop.
getting way off.
Yeah, we are.
I'm willing to drop it, and let's go with a comprehensive plan. Is that everybody?
So
with
I
that?
think,
Wait, no, there's a second piece to this discussion. You mentioned in your motion homeowners, so let's vet that one publicly too.
The what?
Homeowners, business in the home.
Oh,
Let's go after that for a discussion.
okay, Don. Home occupation.
Yes, thank you.
Can you just kind of give us a little,
okay,
run around on that,
okay.
just off the top of your head?
It's done in your home.
Huh?
Wow.
No, it's supposed to be done
That's what we needed, Dawn.
in
right
your
there.
home or in an auxiliary building or both. It's not supposed to take more than 50% of the total space, living space in both places. And that's the major issue that you would have in developing this. That's home occupations, and there's a lot of other things that go with it that don't really make any difference at this point. But that's the major issues that you have to deal with. If you're talking auto dealership, which I already told you about 34 pages, that requires 5,000 feet of square feet of space for vehicles. It doesn't have to be outside, it can be inside. But if you can imagine in this situation where you did find a way to make a home occupation work, 5,000 square feet inside one building, which only occupied 50% of the total space, is a pretty good sized building. So, yeah, is it possible? Does the state say you have to have it all in this building? No, but those are limits that you'd have to explore. So, yeah, the home occupation is a possibility if it's truly a home occupation, but it's a difficult one to work with.
Okay.
Don't think it applies.
My understanding was it wasn't a perfect world by any stretch of the imagination. That was where I was going with that. Thank you.
I'm going to move to postpone indefinitely and move the previous question.
Just do one motion
We've
at a
already got a
time.
motion on the table.
Yes.
I will amend my motion.
Is there a second, though, to the motion to postpone it?
Second.
All in favor, okay?
Oh, wait a minute.
Wait, you haven't amended it, you haven't, I want to hear what the amendment is.
Well, we're gonna vote on Cassie's first.
No, because you're stepping out. You're changing your shit up. You
Yeah.
have to go first. Pretty sure of it. Before she can.
What? Twilight, could you interject here? I'm not sure that they.
I'm changing I've changed my, to just go with a comprehensive plan and leave the dealership out.
And each time there was no second for those?
I second his first motion.
Yeah, he did. Eric did.
The first motion is on the table, that's correct.
Yeah,
So the motion that you did read is on the table currently.
yeah.
You want it
And
strict
now
and do
there's,
what you want.
and there was several times you were mentioning that you might want to amend it.
Right,
And then you're still discussing
right.
what that amendment looks like,
Well,
and there is no second to it.
There was no second, so basically I would just soon let Cassie have her amendment, we can vote on it. And then I'll amend mine if it doesn't go through. If it goes through, it's done.
I think that
Okay.
sounds like,
Okay.
Sounds like some confusion there.
Okay. Yeah, there is. Okay. What was your amendment again, Cassie?
Move to postpone indefinitely and move the previous question.
Okay, all in favor
Those-
of that?
Wait a minute. Wait.
What?
those are two different
Very, very different
motions.
things.
That's
Two
not
very
an
different
amendment.
things.
So
That's not,
we could vote on your postponement indefinitely And then you wanted to move the previous question, which is to postpone indefinitely.
Yes.
So at this point, there's a second to, let me look and see if there's a second needed for your postpone, and, let's see, move the question.
It says requires a second under postpone indefinitely.
But moving the question is now priority. Because there's two there.
Suspense is killing me. I have to pee.
Oh, okay, previous question.
Put me on to something else.
It may interrupt another if they're speaking. It requires a second, yes. So is there a second?
To what?
Okay, so then you would
That was you, right?
It was me.
move to, the motion to move the question is on the floor. Move the previous question. So all those who want to move the previous question, which is to postpone indefinitely, would vote at this time.
And all
Everybody
in favor?
understand?
No.
There's been a motion to move the previous question. The previous question is to postpone indefinitely. So what you're doing is you're taking a vote to move the previous question.
Okay, opposed?
Wait a minute. No.
Wait.
Are you in or out?
I'm in. I'm
Okay.
trying to figure out where we're at. I thought you were still
All those in
explaining.
favor of moving the previous question, raise
Yes.
your hand. All those opposed to moving the question, raise your hand. So the motion to move the question is defeated
Now,
because there's no motion to pass it.
now I would like to
Fails.
bring a motion up to, direct the planning board
Decorum.
to, work on a comprehensive plan.
I think there, do we have to vote on the motion to postpone indefinitely? Because you didn't,
All
you
right,
did not
yep.
move the previous question, which means you're still in discussion
Right.
about whether
let's
you're
vote on that one
postponing
again.
indefinitely or not,
Then
okay?
let's vote on that one.
All right, so the motion to postpone indefinitely in favor,
I was just waiting for decorum to exist.
and the opposed? And so the motion to postpone indefinitely is defeated.
All right, so we're back to Roger.
Now we have a motion on
There
the
it is,
floor that
yeah.
you first read, and
Yeah.
there's
Now,
an
I
amendment.
want to amend this.
Okay,
And I want to remove the chapter 70 of the town ordinance and just go with in the home occupation. Get rid of that and have and direct the planning board to work on updating the comprehensive plan.
so you want to go with the home occupation and direct?
No, I want to.
Or you want to eliminate the home occupation as
Yeah.
well?
And
All right,
I want the planning board to start working on the comprehensive plan,
so that's your amendment,
right to that.
to work on the comprehensive plan?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just need a clarification. And the second?
Second.
All right.
All in favor?
Okay, so we have how many in favor?
Hands in the air who are in
2,
favor, please.
3, 4. 4 in
If you're
favor.
still explaining, Chris, I'm with you.
Okay.
Those opposed? And the motion carries. The main motion, as amended, to work on the comp plan, is now on the floor. All those in favor?
To work on the comp plan? I thought that's
The
what we
main
just voted.
motion as amended is now on the floor.
Okay, gotcha.
And is
I'm there with you.
amended to
Yeah,
just
okay.
work on the comp
Good,
plan.
good.
4, 5, we have 5,
Every time it's somebody more.
and opposed? Okay, good. All right, thank you very much.
Phew.
Sorry, Twyla, we gotta keep you on your toes.
Next, please.
Enough left turns, we're facing the same direction.
Next time, 12.
Under Town Manager's Report, under Other Business.
Just have two things. A week from tonight, from 5 to 7, we're gonna have the meet and greet at the Lisbon Community School for the new police chief. So anybody who wants to come out and meet our new police chief, please come between 5 and 7 at LCS. And that's a week from tonight. And then on 9/22, we're gonna have our business breakfast forum, and we're having that for the police chief as well, and that will be at 7 a.m., is that right, Trace? 7:30 right here at the town office on the 22nd, and that's when we invite the businesses to come and meet the police chief. That's all I have.
Next item, Swallow?
Next item is audience participation and response for new items.
That'd be you, Mr. Sosa.
Thanks for being patient, Dana.
Now you can
Thank
talk
you.
your heart.
This is a learning curve for me, so. I've got a few issues that need to be dealt with. Again, one of them will be tonight, and the other one we'll discuss later. But Mill Street, I think people really need to look at investing a little bit of money for our future. All of our children travel on that road every day. We've been on that road since 1968. I'm telling you, anybody that's been here in Lisbon know that that's a racetrack. It has not changed. With the school there, it hasn't changed. Speed limit signs say 15. I was told that it was no good because the school's too far from the road. Well, it's still posted 15. Not while children are present or anything. Including school buses, teachers, and parents travel through there 50, 55. I don't have a speedometer on, but school buses that come by the school during school are in high gear on the way by. What's that tell you? Okay, they're doing 45, 50 miles an hour. There's a lot of children out there. What scares me, every fall, the children, just before school lets out, I mean in the spring, I'm sorry, they come out in the field and they play games. It doesn't change a thing. Cars go by there, teachers, parents, they're all in a hurry. I understand that. People are in a hurry to get to work, drop their children off. I think we really need to look at putting a speed bump on that road. I've asked this to many people, and it's fallen on deaf ears. I mean, no one seems to care. The children that come in out of that school are our future. We're here talking tonight about all these proposals. It doesn't mean crap if our children are going to get killed out there. I live there, across the street from the school. I work out of my home. I see it. I'm probably the only one there. I've asked the police department to come by and take a look. Come sit in my driveway. Come sit in my vehicles. They don't know it's a police car. I don't get any calls. I don't know what to do, so I'm here asking you folks to take a look at it and think of our future. I don't know how much a speed bump costs, a seasonal speed bump. I understand, I guess it's not in the ordinance or something. That can be changed, I'm sure.
May I talk?
Please.
Would that be something on that stop sign?
We can put the, that new radar.
Right.
That's what I was
What
saying.
we're doing around town, that we have the same complaints. We bought a new radar unit that's very inconspicuous. And what it does, we set it up, and it monitors the speeds. It doesn't ticket anybody, but it monitors the speeds and how much. And then where if it's on over, like on Mill Street, there might be right in the middle of Mill Street, let's say by the power station, there might be a stop sign, so they gotta stop.
Yeah.
Before, and then proceed, or whatever like that.
Yeah.
But where we are, not just on Mill Street, but we got Free Street we're looking at, we got Davis Street we're
Right.
looking at.
Well, I'm here because my concern is Mill Street.
Yeah.
Is what I see, and it's our children.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of adults here. Everybody knows what they're doing. You're driving. The speed limit says 15 there. I don't think there's a car that goes by that's not doing at least 25, and that's when they're going slow, including the entrance to the school. School buses, again, they're in third, fourth gear in the school filled with children. I think we need to really look at that before we start losing a life or so. It's not worth it. Not one life is worth what we're not doing. If it's $500-600 put a speed bump, I think we ought to really bite the bullet. I think the camera will probably help you, but if there's any indication for the cars coming by, they come out once and put that speed limit sign flashing. Yeah, do you see that? You're going to slow down. I mean, that's.
This is
Yeah,
not.
we
Doesn't
can't
do.
get any data out of that, but this other device, we will be able to.
Right.
It'll tell us the time of day, it'll tell us the speed of the vehicle.
Yeah.
So that's what we need, and if
They're basically getting that device. Scott Stewart was here.
Yeah.
Basically getting that device so people like yourself who have complaints about certain roads, they're going to set that thing up and they're going to pay attention. They're going to monitor it. And if they feel that there's a lot of speed going on over there, what they're going to do is that's going to give them actual more reason besides Dana calling.
Right.
To put somebody, insert somebody over and it says, all right, between this time and this time, we got 100 people going by and 90 of them are speeding. Put somebody right there.
Yeah.
That's what that piece of device and that what she's
And that's what needs to be done, but I think it needs to be done very quickly. I mean,
We've
it's,
already
it's,
put, I believe we've already
We
voted on
already-
it. And it's in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Oh, yeah.
But it's on its
Good.
way.
And my understanding is that you're not going to be able to know that that device is out there.
No.
Correct.
So it's going to be, they're not
It's
going
gonna
to
be
know.
different streets at different times.
good. You know, what's sad to me, and I've heard it a number of times, our neighbor, our children are growing up and gone. They're in other towns. Our neighbor has 2 young children, and they won't even let their children go halfway up their driveway because of the cars that come by there, including Sundays, especially Sundays. Sundays when they get 80 miles an hour by the time they hit where the new houses are. I'm telling you, everything they've got. So I think we really need to, I've asked the police officer, I've asked Public Works, and it seems like it's going like this. That's why I'm here. I think please look at it and look at it good. I think our general public would agree with all of it. Talk about a couple cents per thousand. It won't even cost a penny per thousand to put up a speed bump to save a life, okay? Don't wait for it to happen. Don't wait for someone to get killed. I have trouble backing out of my driveway, put it that way. We have to back in our driveway because of the amount of traffic. Just a little story, and I'm going to end it. Just to show you what kind of attitude the people have when they go in that school. We were backing in our driveway. There's someone coming down to school. They weren't at the intersection. I'm backing into my driveway because we can't back out of it. He had to wait for me to finish backing in. And before that happened, he had 2 children with him. He looked at me, gave me the bird, and flew off because he had to wait 2 seconds for me to back in my driveway. I've been angry ever since about that. People have an attitude. That's why the speed. Please do something. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
I have a couple things I'd like to mention today, tonight. One thing is the cleanup of the mill. Awesome job. That looks so good. That should have been done a long time ago. Awesome. What are we doing with the gypsum, Solatech? Wonderful lot. And is there anything gonna be done to fix that or to clean that mess up?
Can I answer that? Yeah, we've got a gentleman named Mr. Richard Maines that's been looking into that with the Army Corps of Engineers.
I guess that's over with. One thing I did want to bring up, though, is all seriousness. This Route 9 thing, we had a lot of folks that voted, discussed it, held hands, sung Kumbaya, the whole 9 yards. And as counselors, you represent the people of the town. We had far more residents in this community that were deathly against doing anything on Route 9, and it was one that wanted it. And I saw tonight, counselors took the one person and snubbed the rest of the community. Shame on you. And the only thing I can say is, we got an election coming, and it's a good thing. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Anybody want to rebuttal to him?
I'll close this public hearing then. Well, good news and recognition?
Audience participation, Roger.
Yeah, whatever.
That one.
Next thing is counselor communications.
I've said way too much. No.
Me too. Next item, Twyla.
No council communications. Next item is to adjourn. Order
I'll make that
2016-2.
motion.
Sorry, he beat you to it.
You got a second.
or the other.
Second.
I'll second
That's
it.
all. Let's give
Okay.
Twyla her vote, though, so she knows.
Zero.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got to have all of this signed before you leave.
Yeah, sign before you leave. Sign. You want some Reese's Pieces? I won't handle them because I smell exhaust. You can help yourself. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Viola.
Grab me a
Oh,
tissue
so Roger,
or something to wipe this.
the Cody back there was just talking about because we didn't